If you believe your credit card late fee is capped at $8, I need to tell you something. That cap was struck down in court and it never took effect a single day. The announcement got enormous attention back in 2024. The government was going to cut the typical late fee from about $30 down to $8. The rule was later vacated, so if what you remember is that headline, you are working from a rule that never governed a single account. Here is what actually happened, who it would have covered, because it was never everybody, and then the part that matters more. Killing that cap did not leave you with no protection at all. Something older snapped back into place. It has real numbers in it, and even those numbers are almost certainly not the fee on your card. Let's start with what was announced. The claim is real in the sense that it really was announced. In March of 2024, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau published a final rule on credit card penalty fees. The headline everybody carried was simple. The typical late fee drops from about $32 to $8. And that number was in the rule. $8 as a safe harbor for a late payment. Now here is the first thing that got lost in the retelling, and it matters. It was never going to apply to every card in your wallet. The rule, as published in March of 2024, wrote it only for what it called larger card issuers. And it defined that precisely. A card issuer that, together with its affiliates, has 1 million or more open credit card accounts as of that rule. If your card came from a small local bank or a credit union, that $8 figure was never yours to begin with. Here is the whole timeline on one card. The rule was issued in March of 2024. It was supposed to take effect that May. It never did. Litigation put it on hold before the effective date. And then, on April 15th of 2025, a federal court vacated it. Not paused. Not delayed. Vacated. The rule is gone. Let me be precise about that word, because it is the whole story. A stay pauses a rule while a court thinks. Vacated means the court set it aside. It has no force. And unless something new replaces it, it is not coming back on its own. The case, if you ever want to look it up yourself, is the Chamber of Commerce of the United States against the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the Bureau says so plainly on its own website. I will put the link below. So the practical effect is simple. If your memory of this is the announcement, your memory is of a rule that never governed a single account. And that leaves a real question. If the $8 cap is gone, what is actually limiting the fee? If that is a useful thing to know, send this to whoever told you your late fee was capped. That is the one person this actually helps. Let me put a person on this because fee rules read like weather until they happen to somebody. Let's use a hypothetical 71-year-old named Ray. In this example, Ray has exactly one credit card, and he pays it by check the week his Social Security lands. He is not careless. But one month his check lands late. His payment posts a day past the due date, and he gets a late fee. Ray had read that late fees were capped at $8. His fee was not $8. The cap he was counting on had been struck down before that ever applied to him. Nothing went wrong with Ray's card, and nobody made a mistake. He was simply working from a rule that does not exist. Here is the part almost everyone gets backwards, and I had it backwards myself until I read the regulation. When a court vacates a rule, it removes that rule's changes. It does not delete the law underneath it. And underneath the $8 rule, there was already a federal framework limiting these fees, sitting in Regulation Z, and it had been there for years. When the new rule was struck down, that older framework simply snapped back into place. It never went anywhere. So the honest headline is not, the government gave up on late fees. It is, the ceiling you have is the one you had before. And it has actual numbers in it. Those numbers are $30 and $41. 30 is the safe harbor for a late payment. 41 is the safe harbor if you are late again with the same kind of violation during that same billing cycle or in one of the next 6. And I want to be careful about the word safe harbor because it is doing a lot of work. It is a ceiling an issuer can charge without having to justify anything. It is not a price list, and it is not a promise about your account. I will come back to why in a minute, because that caveat is the useful part. The framework that came back has 2 numbers in it. $30 is the safe harbor for a late payment. $41 is the safe harbor if the same kind of violation happens again during that billing cycle or in one of the next 6. And the mechanism that adjusts these for inflation each year is still there. That did not go anywhere either. Now here is something I did not expect to find, and it explains a lot of the confusion out there. If you go and look this up on the government's own website, the page for this exact section of Regulation Z, you will see 2 different numbers. You will see $27 and $38. And if you read a little further, the commentary on that same page tells you what those are. It says they apply, and I am quoting, through December 31st, 2017. 2017. The page is showing you figures that are 9 years old, and it says so, quietly, in the fine print underneath. So somebody who does exactly the right thing, goes to the primary source instead of a video, can still walk away with the wrong number unless they read the date. That is not a scandal, and I am not saying anyone was misled on purpose. Regulations get amended by later notices, and the display does not always follow. But it is the single best argument I can give you for why the number you actually need is not on any website at all. If that is worth knowing, send this to whoever told you about the $8 cap. It is the correction that never travels as far as the announcement did. Before I get to your number, one detail inside that framework is worth more than either figure because it decides what a bad stretch costs. Look at how the higher amount is written. It is not simply a fee for being late twice. Under the federal safe harbor framework, a second violation of the same type within that 6-cycle window carries a higher safe harbor amount. 6 billing cycles is half a year. So in our example, if Ray slips once and slips again 4 months later, that second one is not treated as a fresh start. It falls inside the window. The expensive one is rarely the first late payment. It is the second one inside 6 months. So why have I not just told you your late fee is $30? Because the regulation gives issuers a second route and it caps them a second way. First, an issuer does not have to use the safe harbor at all. It can instead set a fee that, in the regulation's words, represents a reasonable proportion of the total costs it incurs from that type of violation. Choose that route, and the number can land somewhere else entirely. Second, and this one protects you, so it is worth remembering, the regulation says a fee must not exceed the dollar amount associated with the violation. For a late payment, that associated amount is your required minimum payment. So if your minimum payment that month was $15, the late fee cannot be $30. A small minimum payment quietly caps the fee below the safe harbor. That limit is written into the regulation, and it is worth knowing about, which is why the number that governs you is not on a government page or in a video. It is on your statement. Regulation Z requires your issuer to disclose the late payment fee and the penalty rate right there near your due date. So pull your most recent statement and read it. That is your number, and it takes about a minute. And when you have it in front of you, I have a question for you. What does your card actually charge? Put the number in the comments. I would genuinely like to see how far apart they are, because the whole point of this video is that no single figure covers everybody. And between us, we can find out what the real range looks like. While you are at it, 2 things worth asking on the phone: whether they will waive a late fee once as a courtesy if your record is clean, and whether you can move your due date to a few days after your check arrives. Both are ordinary requests, both are free, and the second one stops the problem instead of arguing about it afterwards. And the habit underneath all of it: when you hear a rule changed in your favor, check whether it survived, and check the date on whatever page you land on. If that is the kind of check you want done every week, subscribe. That is the whole job of this channel. 3 things. 1. Your statement's fees section shows your late payment fee and penalty rate near the due date. That is your real number. 2. Whatever it says, the fee can never be more than the minimum payment that was due. 3. Ask for a one-time courtesy waiver if your record is clean, and ask to move your due date to just after your check lands. Short version. Nobody capped your late fee at $8. That rule was vacated in April of 2025 and never took effect. But killing it did not leave you unprotected. The older federal framework snapped back with safe harbors of $30 and $41. The government's own page still displays the 2017 figures, which is why so much of this is repeated wrong. And even the right numbers are ceilings, not your fee, because your issuer may price by cost and can never charge more than your minimum payment. This channel is educational. It is not personal financial advice, and it is not tax advice. The federal rule gives us a framework. Your statement gives you your number. Check the rule, not the slogan.